The stars looked different in this part of space. Commander Zekthar had been exploring the outer regions of the galaxy for 3 years now, but something felt wrong here. His ship, the Valyrian Striker, moved slowly through the empty void between star systems. The silence was heavy and strange. "Commander, we're picking up something unusual," said his second officer, Nextar. The young Valyrian's blue scales were bright with excitement. "There's a large object about 10,000 kilometers ahead. It's not showing up on our life sensors." Zekthar walked to the main viewing screen. His red eyes studied the data flowing across it. The Valyrians were a proud warrior race. They had conquered 47 worlds in the last century. Nothing in space scared them anymore. But this reading was different. "What kind of object?" he asked. "It appears to be a ship, sir." "A very large one, but it's completely dark. No energy. Signatures, no movement, nothing. It's just floating there like a dead rock." Zekthar's clawed hand touched the control panel. The screen zoomed in on the object. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. The ship was massive, easily 2 kilometers long. Its hull was black as the void around it, but the design was unlike anything in their records. "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" he asked his crew. The bridge fell silent. 20 Valyrian officers stared at the image. None of them had seen such a vessel. It didn't match any known civilization in their databases. The shape was sleek but deadly, like a blade floating in space. "Run a full scan," Zekthar ordered. "I want to know everything about this ship." The scanners worked for several minutes. The results were even more puzzling. The ship was constructed from materials they couldn't identify. The hull appeared to be some kind of advanced metal, but their sensors couldn't determine what it was made of. "Sir, there's something else," said Nextar. "We're detecting faint quantum signatures inside the ship. It's almost like the vessel is alive but sleeping." Zekthar felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of exploration, he had never encountered anything like this. The Valyrians had advanced technology, but this ship seemed to be from a completely different level of civilization. "Can you make out any markings on the hull?" he asked. The image on the screen shifted as their cameras focused on different sections of the ship. Near what appeared to be the front, strange symbols became visible. They were carved deep into the metal, and despite the ship's apparent age, they were still clear. "USS Vengeance," read the ship's computer, translating the alien text. "The language appears to be from a species called humans, but there are no records of such a race in our databases." Zekthar had never heard of humans. The Valyrians had explored much of the galaxy and had contact with hundreds of different species. How could there be a race they knew nothing about? "Computer, search all historical records for any mention of humans or this ship designation," he commanded. The computer worked for several minutes before responding. "No records found. However, there are some ancient legends from the Zephyrian Empire about a mysterious race that vanished centuries ago. The stories claim they were destroyed in a great war, but the details are unclear. The Zephyrians were an old enemy of the Valyrians. If they had destroyed this human race, it might explain why there were no records. But it didn't explain how this ship had survived or why it was here, in the middle of nowhere. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Nextar. Zekthar studied the image of the dark ship. Every instinct told him to be careful, but his curiosity was stronger. The Valyrians were not a race that backed down from mysteries. If this ship contained advanced technology, it could help them in their conquest of the galaxy. "Prepare a boarding party," he decided. "We're going to explore this vessel." As the Valyrian crew prepared for the mission, something stirred deep inside the human ship. Systems that had been dormant for decades began to flicker to life. In the quantum matrix that served as the ship's brain, a consciousness that had been sleeping started to wake up. Captain Jake Morrison felt himself returning to awareness slowly. The last thing he remembered was the final battle over Earth's moon. His ship had been badly damaged, his crew was dying, and the enemy was closing in. He had made the decision to upload his consciousness into the ship's systems, hoping to save what was left of humanity. Now, After years of darkness, he felt alien minds touching his ship. The boarding party was already moving toward the docking bay. Morrison's consciousness spread through the vessel, checking systems and defenses. Everything was functional, waiting for his command. The Valerian boarding party consisted of 12 warriors, all armed with energy weapons and scanning equipment. They approached the human ship in a small transport vessel. The hull of the USS Vengeance loomed before them like a metal mountain. "There's a docking port on the lower section," reported the pilot. "It appears to be compatible with our systems." The transport ship attached to the human vessel with a soft thud. The boarding party checked their weapons and equipment one final time. Commander Zekthar led the way as they entered the airlock. The moment their feet touched the deck of the human ship, lights began to flicker on in the corridors. The Valerians raised their weapons, but nothing attacked them. The ship seemed to be welcoming them aboard. "Atmosphere is breathable," reported one of the warriors, checking his scanner. "Temperature is comfortable. This ship has been maintaining life support systems even while dormant." They moved carefully through the corridors. The human ship was clearly designed for war. Weapon ports lined the walls, and the passages were built for quick movement during combat. But there was something else, something that made the Valerians uneasy. "Sir, I'm detecting strange energy patterns throughout the ship," said Nextar. "It's almost like there are ghosts in the machine." Zekthar didn't believe in ghosts, but he couldn't deny that something felt alive about this vessel. The walls seemed to pulse with hidden energy, and he could swear he heard whispers in the air deep in the ship's computer core. Captain Morrison watched the aliens explore his vessel. He could have activated the defenses and destroyed them instantly, but he had a better idea. These aliens might be exactly what he needed to wake up the rest of humanity. The boarding party reached the main bridge. It was an impressive sight, with command stations arranged in a circle around a central chair. The walls were covered with screens and control panels, all dark and waiting. "Look at this technology," whispered one of the Valerians. "It's more advanced than anything we've seen." As they explored the bridge, the main screen suddenly flickered to life. The Valerians jumped back, weapons ready, but what appeared on the screen was not threatening. It was a human face, pale and tired, with kind eyes. "Welcome aboard the USS Vengeance," said the image. "I am Captain Jake Morrison. I've been waiting a long time for someone to find us." The Valerians stared at the screen in amazement. They had found more than just a dead ship. They had found a living ghost, a consciousness that had survived beyond death itself. "We are explorers from the Valerian Empire," said Zekthar carefully. "We detected your ship and came to investigate." Morrison's image smiled. "I'm grateful for your discovery. My ship and crew have been lost in space for a very long time. Perhaps we can help each other." The Valerians looked at each other with excitement. They had found something incredible, a technology that could preserve consciousness beyond death. This discovery could change everything for their empire. What they didn't know was that Captain Morrison was already planning their next move. The greatest deception in galactic history was about to begin. Commander Zekthar stared at the human face on the screen. Captain Morrison looked tired but alert, his eyes holding secrets that the Valerian commander wanted to understand. The bridge around them hummed with new energy as more systems came online. "Captain Morrison," Zekthar said carefully, "how long have you been trapped in this ship?" Morrison's image flickered slightly before answering. "Time moves differently when you exist as data and energy. I believe it has been 67 years since the final battle. My crew and I uploaded our consciousness into the ship's quantum matrix when our bodies could no longer fight." The Valerian crew exchanged glances. They had heard stories of species that could preserve their minds after death, but they had never seen it themselves. This was technology beyond their current understanding. "Your crew is also alive in the ship?" asked Nextar. "In a manner of speaking, yes. We are preserved as patterns of thought and memory. The ship's computer systems allow us to interact with the physical world, though we are no longer flesh and blood." As if summoned by the conversation, another holographic figure appeared on the bridge. This one was a human female with short red hair and sharp green eyes. She wore what appeared to be a military uniform, though the design was unfamiliar to the Valerians. "Captain, we have visitors," she said, looking at the alien boarding party with curiosity rather than fear. "Lieutenant Amy Brooks, my tactical officer," Morrison explained. "Amy, these are representatives of the Valerian Empire. They found our ship drifting in space." Amy nodded to the aliens. "Welcome aboard the Vengeance. I hope you're here to help us get home." Zekthar felt a surge of excitement. Not only had they found advanced technology, but they had also discovered beings who might be grateful enough to share their knowledge. "We would be honored to assist you, Lieutenant Brooks. Perhaps you could tell us more about your people and your technology." Amy smiled, and her holographic form moved to one of the control panels. "Humans were once a proud species. We controlled 17 star systems before the Zephyrian Empire attacked us. Our homeworld, Earth, was beautiful. Blue oceans, green forests, and cities that reached toward the stars." The main screen changed to show images of human civilization. The Valerians saw cities with tall buildings made of glass and metal, ships that moved through space with grace and power, and humans working together in harmony. It was impressive, but what caught their attention were the weapons. "Your military technology appears quite advanced," observed Zekthar. "Humans were natural warriors when we needed to be," Amy replied. "We preferred peace, but we knew how to fight when our survival was at stake." "This ship, the USS Vengeance, was one of our most powerful vessels." Morrison's image moved to join them. The Vengeance was designed as a deep space combat vessel. She carried a crew of only 50 humans, but her weapon systems could destroy entire enemy fleets. "We believed in quality over quantity," the Valerians were fascinated. Their own ships required crews of thousands to operate effectively. The idea of a 50-person crew controlling such a massive vessel was incredible. "How is that possible?" asked Nextar. "Our technology integrated biological and mechanical systems," Amy explained. "The ship's computer could think and react almost as fast as a human mind. We worked together, man and machine, to create something greater than either could achieve alone." Another holographic figure appeared, this one a stocky man with dark hair and oil-stained hands. "Did someone mention the ship's systems?" "I'm Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez. I've been keeping this old girl running for decades." Danny walked to a control panel and began checking readings. "The Vengeance is more than just a ship. She's a living entity, capable of learning and adapting. Every battle we fought, every enemy we faced, made her smarter and stronger." The Valerian boarding party watched in amazement as the three humans worked together, their holographic forms moving through the bridge with practiced efficiency. The technology was beyond anything they had imagined. "Could you show us some of your weapon systems?" Zekthar asked. Morrison and Amy exchanged a look. "I suppose there's no harm in a basic demonstration," Morrison said. "Amy, bring up the tactical display." The main screen shifted to show a three-dimensional map of the surrounding space. The USS Vengeance appeared as a blue dot in the center, with the Valerian ship nearby. Red targeting indicators appeared around both vessels. The Vengeance carries pulse cannons that can fire concentrated energy beams across vast distances, Amy explained. "We also have quantum torpedoes that can phase through enemy shields and explode inside their ships." The Valerians stared at the display in wonder. Their own weapons were powerful, but nothing compared to what they were seeing. "There's more," Danny added. "The ship can also generate protective fields that make us nearly invisible to enemy sensors. And if we need to escape, our engines can fold space-time to travel faster than light." Zekthar felt his warrior's heart beating faster. With technology like this, the Valerian Empire could conquer the entire galaxy. They would be unstoppable. "Captain Morrison," he said, "what would you need to get your ship operational again?" Morrison's image seemed to consider the question. "The Vengeance is actually fully operational. Our main problem is that we're lost. We've been drifting in space for so long that we don't know where we are in relation to human space." "There may be a problem with that," Zekthar said carefully. Our records indicate that the human species was destroyed decades ago. Your homeworld and colonies were eliminated by the Zephyrian Empire. The three human holograms froze. For a moment, the only sound on the bridge was the hum of the ship's systems. All of them? Amy asked, her voice barely a whisper. According to our historical databases, yes. The Zephyrians were thorough in their conquest. They wanted to make sure humans could never threaten them again. Morrison's image flickered with what might have been rage. They killed everyone. Every man, woman, and child on 17 worlds. I'm sorry, Zekthar said, and he meant it. But perhaps this gives us an opportunity to help each other. You have advanced technology and military knowledge. We have ships and resources. Together we could accomplish great things. The humans were quiet for a long moment. Finally, Morrison spoke. What exactly are you proposing? An alliance? Zekthar said. You help us understand your technology, and we help you. Find a new purpose. The Valyrian Empire is always looking for new weapons and tactics to use against our enemies. Amy's holographic form brightened. We could teach you our combat techniques. The Vengeance has detailed records of every battle we ever fought. Decades of tactical knowledge and strategic thinking. And our engineering systems, Danny added. I could show your people how to integrate biological and mechanical components. Your ships could become much more efficient. Morrison nodded slowly. It would give us a chance to honor our fallen people, to make sure their sacrifice wasn't forgotten. Zekthar felt a surge of triumph. This was better than he had hoped. Not only had they found advanced technology, but they had also found willing teachers. There's one thing, Morrison said. The Vengeance has a special combat protocol called the Wraith System. It allows the ship to operate completely on its own, learning from every battle and adapting to new threats. It's our most advanced military technology. Could you teach us to build such systems? Asked Zekthar. With time and patience, yes. But it would require integrating our technology into your ships. The process would be complex and would need to be done carefully. The Valyrian commander was already planning. If they could retrofit their entire fleet with human technology, they would become the most powerful force in the galaxy. No empire would be able to stand against them. We accept your offer of alliance, he said formally. The Valyrian Empire will provide you with ships and resources, and you will share your knowledge with us. The three humans smiled, and Amy stepped forward. Welcome to the future of warfare, Commander. You're about to learn what it means to fight like a human. Deep in the ship's quantum matrix, beyond where the Valyrians could detect other human consciousness were stirring. They had been listening to the conversation, and they were not as trusting as they appeared. The greatest deception in galactic history was beginning, and the aliens had no idea what they had unleashed. Asterisk. 2 weeks had passed since the Valyrians first boarded the USS Vengeance. Commander Zekthar felt pleased with how things were going. The human consciousnesses were proving to be very helpful teachers, sharing their knowledge freely with his crew. The Valyrian fleet had grown to 12 ships, all gathered around the massive human vessel. Engineers from across the Empire had come to study the advanced technology. They worked day and night, trying to understand how human systems operated. The integration is going well, reported Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez. His holographic form stood next to a Valyrian technician who was installing human components into their ship's weapon systems. Your people are quick learners. Danny watched as the alien engineers carefully connected human technology to Valyrian systems. What they couldn't see were the tiny nanoscale devices that Danny was secretly building inside the ship's manufacturing bays. These microscopic machines were smaller than dust particles. Invisible to Valyrian sensors, each device was programmed with a simple mission: observe and report. They would spread throughout the Valyrian fleet, recording everything they saw and heard. The aliens thought they were learning about human technology, but the humans were learning much more about them. Commander Zekthar, said Lieutenant Amy Brooks, appearing on the bridge of the Valyrian flagship, I've finished analyzing your tactical databases. Human combat strategies should integrate well with your existing methods. Amy had indeed studied their tactics, but not to help them fight better. She was learning their weaknesses, their blind spots, and their standard responses to different threats. Every piece of information was being stored in the quantum matrix, building a complete picture of Valyrian military capabilities. "Excellent work, Lieutenant," Zekthar replied. "Our fleet commanders are eager to learn your techniques." What the Valyrian commander didn't know was that every system his people installed contained hidden programming. The new navigation computers would work perfectly for now, but they could be overridden when the time came. The upgraded weapons would function normally until they received a specific signal. Then they would refuse to fire on human targets. In the deepest parts of the USS Vengeance, another consciousness was stirring. Dr. Lisa Carter had been the ship's science officer before uploading her mind to the quantum matrix. She was working on the most important part of their plan. "Denny, how are the quantum communicators coming along?" she asked through the ship's internal systems. "Almost ready," Danny replied. "The Valyrians think we're just trying to boost our sensor range, but the real purpose is much more important." Dr. Carter smiled, though no one could see her expression. The quantum communicators were designed to send messages across vast distances instantly. To alien sensors, the transmissions would look like random energy bursts. Nothing more than background radiation, but hidden in those signals were coordinates, tactical data, and activation codes. Messages that would travel to every corner of the galaxy, seeking other human ships that might still be drifting in space. "Any word from the other vessels?" Danny asked. "3 have responded so far," Lisa replied. "The USS Justice, the USS Retribution, and the USS Freedom. Their crews are waking up and preparing for the next phase." The human plan was much larger than the Valyrians imagined. The USS Vengeance wasn't the only ship to escape the destruction of human space. Dozens of vessels had fled the final battle, their crews uploading their consciousness to survive. They had been waiting, scattered across the galaxy, for a signal to return. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Valyrian flagship, Zekthar was meeting with his fleet commanders. The meeting was being held in what they thought was a secure room, but Danny's nanoscale devices were recording every word. "The human technology is beyond our expectations," one commander reported. "Our weapons are now 30% more powerful, and our shields can absorb twice as much damage." "What about the Wraith system?" asked another commander. "When will that be ready?" "The humans say it will take several more weeks," Zekthar replied. "The integration is complex, and they want to make sure it works properly." The truth was that the humans were stalling. They needed time to complete their preparations and wake up more of their sleeping fleets. Each day of delay gave them more advantages. "Sir," interrupted a communication officer, "we're receiving a message from the Valyrian High Council. They want a full report on our discovery." Zekthar felt a moment of concern. The High Council would want to claim the human technology for themselves. They might even order the human consciousnesses to be brought back to the homeworld for study. "We're still conducting initial research," he said. "I want to understand this technology completely before we report our findings." What Zekthar didn't know was that his message to the High Council was being intercepted and recorded. The humans were learning about Valyrian political structure, military hierarchy, and most importantly, the location of their homeworld. Dr. Lisa Carter studied the intercepted communications with great interest. "So the Valyrian Empire consists of 47 conquered worlds," she noted. "Their homeworld is called Valeria Prime, located in the Andromeda sector." "That's useful information," said Captain Morrison, his consciousness joining the conversation. "How many ships do they have in total?" "According to their military databases, about 3,000 vessels of various sizes," Lisa replied. "Most are older designs, but they have some modern warships." Amy Brooks added her own intelligence. "I've been studying their combat records. The Valyrians are good fighters, but they rely too much on direct assault tactics. They don't adapt well to unexpected situations." "Perfect," Morrison said. "That will work in our favor when the time comes." The humans were also learning about other alien species in the galaxy. The Valyrians had detailed files on their enemies and allies. The Zephyrian Empire, the species that had destroyed humanity, was still active and powerful. They controlled over 100 worlds and had the largest military force in the galaxy, but there were other species too. The peaceful Altarians, who had been enslaved by the Valyrians. The proud Centauri, who were fighting a losing war against Zephyrian expansion. The mysterious Void Walkers, who appeared and disappeared without warning. We could help some of these species, Amy suggested. The Altarians and Centauri might be willing allies against our common enemies. One step at a time, Morrison replied. First, we need to deal with our current hosts. The Valyrians continued their work, completely unaware that they were being manipulated. They installed human technology in ship after ship, each one becoming more vulnerable to human control. The modifications looked beneficial, but they also contained hidden features. Danny's nanoscale devices had spread to every ship in the fleet. They were recording conversations, mapping ship layouts, and identifying key systems. The information was being transmitted back to the USS Vengeance through quantum links too subtle for alien sensors to detect. The fleet modifications are 60% complete, Danny reported to his fellow humans. At this rate, we'll have control of their entire force within a week. And the quantum communicators? Morrison asked. Ready for full transmission, Dr. Carter replied. We can send the awakening signal to all human ships in the galaxy. Not yet, Morrison said. We need to be patient. Let the Valyrians finish their work. When they think they have everything they want, that's when we'll show them what human technology can really do. The plan was working perfectly. The Valyrians believed they were gaining powerful new weapons and allies. They had no idea that they were actually preparing for their own defeat. In the quantum matrix of the USS Vengeance, the human consciousnesses waited. They had been patient for decades, and they could wait a little longer. Soon, the galaxy would discover that humanity had never truly died. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to return. The greatest deception in galactic history was nearing its completion. The Valyrians had found what they thought was a gift from the stars, but they had actually awakened their own destruction. The ghost ship was about to become very real indeed. Far across the galaxy in a hidden nebula that glowed with purple and blue light, Admiral Patricia Hayes stood on the command deck of the human colony ship New Eden. The massive vessel had been drifting in space for 40 years. Its crew of 10,000 humans living in secret. The quantum message from the USS Vengeance had arrived 3 days ago, and Patricia was still processing what it meant. Captain Morrison was alive, or at least his consciousness was, and he had found a way to strike back at their enemies. Admiral, we've finished analyzing the data packet, reported Commander Rick Blake, her second in command. The Valyrians have no idea what they've walked into. Patricia studied the holographic display showing the Valyrian fleet. 12 ships, all now carrying human technology, all vulnerable to remote control. Morrison had done excellent work. How many of our ships have responded to the awakening signal? She asked. 17 so far, Rick replied. The USS Justice under Captain Maria Santos, the USS Retribution with Commander Tony Blake, and 15 others. More are coming online every hour. Patricia felt a surge of hope she hadn't experienced in decades. When the Zephyrians had destroyed Earth and the other human colonies, she had thought their species was finished. But humanity had always been good at surviving against impossible odds. What's the status of our own fleet? She asked. The New Eden is ready for combat. Our manufacturing systems have been producing new weapons and ships for years. We have 50 warships ready to launch, plus the colony ship itself. Patricia nodded. The New Eden wasn't just a refugee ship. It was a mobile fortress designed to rebuild human civilization wherever they settled. Its factories could produce everything from food to starships, and its defensive systems could protect against entire fleets. Send a message to all awakened ships, she ordered. Phoenix Protocol is now active. Humanity returns to the stars. Meanwhile, back with the Valyrian fleet, Commander Zekthar was feeling very pleased with himself. The integration of human technology was nearly complete. His ships were now the most powerful in the galaxy, and he was ready to test them against real enemies. "Commander, we're receiving a priority message from the High Council," reported his communication officer. "They're ordering us to return to Valeria Prime immediately." Zekthar frowned. He had been hoping to keep the humans and their technology secret a little longer. The High Council would want to take control of everything, and he might lose his chance for glory. "What reason did they give?" he asked. They say the Zephyrian Empire is planning a major offensive. All fleet commanders are being recalled for strategic planning. On the bridge of the USS Vengeance, the human consciousnesses were listening to every word. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for. The Valerians would take them directly to their homeworld, where they could strike at the heart of the Empire. "Captain Morrison," said Amy Brooks, "this is our chance. Once we reach Valeria Prime, we can activate the final phase." Morrison's holographic form appeared on the bridge. "Are all systems ready?" "Danny has finished installing the control back doors." "In all 12 ships," Amy replied. "Dr. Carter has the quantum communicators ready for galaxy-wide transmission. We can wake up every human ship in space." "And the Wraith system?" Morrison asked. "Fully operational," Danny Rodriguez reported. "The Valerians think it's just an advanced combat program, but it's actually a tactical intelligence network. Every ship we've modified is now connected to our command system." Morrison felt a grim satisfaction. The Valerians had been so eager to gain new weapons that they had handed control of their entire fleet to their enemies. It was almost too easy. "Very well," he said. "Begin the final preparations. When we reach Valeria Prime, we'll show the galaxy that humanity is not extinct." The Valerian fleet began moving toward their homeworld, completely unaware that they were carrying their own destruction. The human technology they had installed was working perfectly, giving them confidence in their new capabilities. But deep in the quantum matrix of the USS Vengeance, the human consciousnesses were making their final preparations. The nanoscale devices had mapped every system on every ship. The hidden programs were ready to activate. And across the galaxy, other human ships were awakening from their long sleep. Commander Zekthar stood on his bridge, watching the stars stream past as they traveled through hyperspace. In just a few hours, they would reach Valeria Prime. He imagined the look on the High Council's faces when they saw what he had accomplished. "Sir," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks, appearing as a hologram beside him, "I wanted to thank you again for rescuing us. Without your help, we would have been lost forever." Zekthar smiled. "It was our honor, Lieutenant. Your knowledge has made our fleet incredibly powerful." "I hope we can continue to work together," Amy said. "Perhaps we can help? You fight the Zephyrians. They destroyed our people after all." "That would be excellent," Zekthar replied. "The High Council will be very interested in your combat experience." What the Valerian commander didn't know was that Amy was recording everything he said. The humans were learning about Valerian politics, military strategy, and most importantly, their plans for the future. As the fleet approached Valeria Prime, alarms began sounding throughout the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, ancient human ships were coming to life. The USS Justice, hidden in an asteroid field, began charging its weapons. The USS Retribution, drifting near a dead star, activated its engines for the first time in decades. Each ship carried the consciousness of human heroes who had died in the final war. Admirals, captains, and crew members who had uploaded their minds to continue fighting even after their bodies were gone. They were the ghosts of humanity's greatest warriors, and they were ready for revenge. "Admiral Hayes?" came a transmission. "From the USS Justice, this is Captain Maria Santos. All systems are green. We're ready to begin the assault." "Acknowledged, Captain," Patricia replied from the New Eden. "Commander Blake, report from the Retribution." "All weapon systems operational," came Tony Blake's voice. "We've been waiting 40 years for this moment." Patricia looked at the tactical display showing human ships across the galaxy. 17 vessels, each one carrying the preserved consciousness of dozens of crew members. They were outnumbered, but they had advantages their enemies couldn't imagine. "All ships, this is Admiral Hayes," she transmitted. Today we honor our fallen. Today we reclaim our place in the galaxy. Today we show the universe that humanity cannot be destroyed. Back with the Valyrian fleet, strange things were beginning to happen. Navigation systems started showing minor errors. Communication arrays picked up mysterious signals. Weapon systems required frequent recalibration. "Sir, we're experiencing some technical difficulties," reported the chief engineer. The new human systems seemed to be having integration problems. Zekthar felt a moment of concern. "Can you fix them?" "We're trying, sir, but the problems seem to be getting worse." On the USS Vengeance, Captain Morrison was watching the Valyrian crew struggle with their systems. The hidden programs were activating, slowly taking control of ship after ship. Soon the entire fleet would be under human command. "It's almost time," he said to his crew. "Amy, are you ready?" "All tactical systems are under our control," Amy replied. "The Valyrians can't fire a single shot without our permission." "Danny, what about the engines?" "We can stop them, start them, or send them anywhere we want," Danny reported. "Their ships are ours now." "Dr. Carter, the communications?" "Ready to broadcast on all frequencies," Lisa replied. "Every species in the galaxy will hear our message." Morrison felt a deep satisfaction. The plan that had taken decades to prepare was finally ready. The Valyrians had thought they were getting new weapons, but they had actually armed their own enemies. "Begin the revelation," he ordered, across the Valyrian fleet. Screens flickered and changed. The image of Captain Morrison appeared on every display, but this time he looked different. His eyes were hard, his expression cold, and his voice carried the authority of a man who had seen his entire species destroyed. "People of the Valyrian Empire," he began, "you have been deceived. We are not your allies. We are your judgment." The truth was finally revealed. The greatest deception in galactic history was complete, and humanity was ready to return to the stars. Commander Zekthar stared at the screen in horror as Captain Morrison's face looked back at him with cold determination. Around the bridge, his crew stood frozen, unable to believe what they were seeing. "This is impossible," Zekthar whispered. "We helped you. We saved you." Morrison's image smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You saved us, yes, but not in the way you think. You gave us exactly what we needed to return to the galaxy. You gave us your trust, your technology, and most importantly, your fleet." Across the Valyrian fleet, panic was spreading. Ship after ship reported the same problem. Their weapons wouldn't respond to commands. Their navigation systems were locked. Their communication arrays were broadcasting human signals instead of Valyrian orders. "Sir, we can't control anything," reported Nexstar, his voice shaking. "The human systems have taken over our entire fleet." Lieutenant Amy Brooks appeared on the bridge, no longer pretending to be helpful. "I'm sorry, Commander, but we had no choice. Your people would never have helped us willingly if you knew our real plan." "What plan?" Zekthar demanded. "What do you want from us?" "Justice," said Morrison simply. "The Zephyrian Empire destroyed 17 human worlds. Billions of our people died. We've been waiting decades for the chance to strike back, and you've given us that chance." The main screen changed to show space around Valeria Prime. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents, surrounded by massive space stations and defensive platforms. It was the heart of an empire that controlled 47 worlds, but something was wrong. The defensive stations weren't responding to commands from the planet. The orbital weapons platforms were turning away from their assigned positions. "You see, Commander," Amy explained, "your people weren't the only ones we've been talking to. Over the past few weeks, we've been spreading our nanoscale devices throughout your entire empire. Every ship, every station, every defensive platform now carries our technology." Dr. Lisa Carter's holographic form appeared beside them. It was quite simple, really. "You were so eager to upgrade your military that you didn't bother to check what else our technology might be doing." Suddenly, space around Valeria Prime filled with light. Ship after ship appeared from hyperspace, but these weren't Valyrian vessels. They were human warships, sleek and deadly, their hulls glowing with energy. The USS Justice materialized first, its massive form bristling with weapons. Captain Maria Santos stood on its bridge, her consciousness finally able to command a real battle again after decades of waiting. "This is Captain Santos of the USS Justice to all Valerian forces," her voice echoed across every communication channel. "You will stand down immediately or face the consequences." The USS Retribution appeared next, followed by the USS Freedom, the USS Liberty, and dozens of other ships. Each one carried the preserved consciousness of human heroes who had died fighting. The Zephyrians. They were ghosts no longer. Commander Tony Blake looked out from the bridge of the Retribution at the Valerian homeworld. "Target acquired, Admiral Hayes, awaiting your orders." The massive colony ship New Eden dropped out of hyperspace like a mountain appearing in space. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood on its command deck, looking down at the world that had thought humanity was extinct. "People of Valeria Prime," her voice boomed across the planet's communication networks. "This is Admiral Patricia Hayes of the human fleet. We are not here to destroy you, but we will defend ourselves if attacked." On the surface of Valeria Prime, billions of aliens looked up at the sky in terror. The stories of the extinct human race had been legends to them, but now those legends were real and very much alive. The Valerian High Council met in emergency session, their scaled faces pale with fear. "How is this possible?" demanded High Counselor Vexron. "The humans were destroyed 40 years ago." "Apparently not all of them," replied Counselor Nimetar. "And now they control our entire fleet." Meanwhile, throughout the galaxy, other events were unfolding. On worlds controlled by the Zephyrian Empire, ancient human ships were appearing from the void. The USS Vengeance itself had left the Valerian fleet and was now approaching the Zephyrian capital world of Zephyr Prime. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, no longer just a hologram but somehow more real than he had been in decades. The ship's quantum matrix had evolved, allowing the human consciousness to manifest with greater power and presence. "Danny, what's the status of our weapons?" he asked. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez checked his readings. "All systems at full power, Captain. The Wraith protocol is active and learning. We're ready for whatever they throw at us." The Zephyrian homeworld was a dark place, its surface covered with massive cities that reached toward the sky like metal claws. This was the world from which the order to destroy humanity had come. "Amy, open a channel to the Zephyrian High Command," Morrison ordered. Lieutenant Amy Brooks worked at her console. "Channel open, Captain." Morrison's image appeared on screens throughout the Zephyrian capital. The alien leaders who saw him felt a chill of recognition. They remembered the humans, remembered the war, and remembered thinking they had won. "Greetings, Zephyrian Empire," Morrison said calmly. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Vengeance. I believe you remember my species." The Zephyrian Supreme Leader, a tall creature with silver skin and 6 arms, stepped forward. "Impossible. We destroyed all human worlds. Your species is extinct. Death is not the end for humanity," Morrison replied. "We evolved beyond the need for flesh and blood. We became something greater. And now we've returned to collect what you owe us." Around Zephyr Prime, more human ships appeared. The USS Honor, the USS Courage, the USS Defiance. Each one carried weapons that had been improved and refined during decades of waiting, but the humans weren't just attacking on the peaceful worlds of the Altarian people. Human ships appeared not as conquerors but as liberators. The Altarians had been enslaved by the Valerians for generations, forced to work in mines and factories. Captain Maria Santos broadcast a message to the Altarian homeworld. "People of Altaria, we are the human fleet. We offer you freedom from your oppressors. Will you stand with us?" The answer came quickly. Across Altaria, the blue-skinned people looked up at the human ships with hope for the first time in decades. "We will fight beside you," came the reply. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Centauri, who had been losing their war against the Zephyrians, suddenly found human reinforcements appearing in their most desperate battles. Smaller species that had been bullied by larger empires discovered that they now had powerful protectors. Admiral Hayes coordinated the galaxy-wide operation from the New Eden. "All ships report status," she commanded. Valerian Empire is neutralized, reported Captain Santos. Their fleet is under our control and their government is requesting surrender terms. Zephyrian defenses are falling, added Commander Blake. Their ships can't adapt to our new weapons fast enough. Liberation forces have secured 12 enslaved worlds, came another report. The people are welcoming us as heroes. Hay smiled. The plan was working better than they had hoped. Humanity wasn't just returning to the galaxy. They were reshaping it. On Valeria Prime, Commander Zekthar sat in his command chair, defeated. What happens to us now? He asked Morrison, the human. Captain considered the question. That depends on you. The Valerian Empire as a conquering force is finished. But your people can have a future if you choose it. Help us build a better galaxy instead of trying to rule it? Morrison turned to address the entire Valerian fleet. We offer you a choice. Join us in creating a galaxy where all species can live in peace or face the consequences of continuing your old ways. The message was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Humanity had returned not as conquerors seeking revenge, but as guardians offering protection to those who needed it. In his final log entry, Captain Morrison recorded the words that would be remembered throughout history. Today marks the beginning of a new age. Death could not stop us. Time could not defeat us. We are humanity, and we have evolved beyond mortality itself. We return to the stars not as the species we once were, but as the guardians we have become. The ghost ships were ghosts no longer. They were the future of the galaxy, and that future had finally arrived.